Welcome back. This is the model video to accompany the PowerPoint video for the endocrine system for Biology 2225L at CNM. As I mentioned in the PowerPoint video, the endocrine system is pretty simple in terms of gross anatomy. There's really not that much to look at, so this will be a fairly short video. We're going to start up in the brain. Remember that we have three structures in the brain that we're interested in, and that would be the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the pineal gland. And so when we look at our brain model, of course, remember this whole area is called the diencephalon. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. This is the diencephalon right in here with the thalamus on either side. The hypothalamus is this funnel-shaped region tapering down below the thalamus. So here we have the hypothalamus right here. Now, if this was an intact model, this is broken, unfortunately, there would be an infundibulum leading to a pituitary gland. Unfortunately, we can't see that on this model, but we will be able to see it on another model. I also want to point out that the pineal gland is number 23. It's a little pine cone-shaped gland actually behind the thalamus in a region called the epithalamus. So that's the pineal gland right there. We do have a better model than that to view some of these things. It's a model of the brainstem, and it looks like this. You may recognize this from AMP1. So the cerebrum essentially has been removed from this model, and we see the brainstem. I'm going to separate it so that we can see essentially the same view that we were just seeing in the other brain. So again, the thalamus and the hypothalamus, which again is part of the endocrine system right here. On this model, we do see intact the infundibulum, the stalk-like infundibulum that then leads to the pituitary gland. Of course, on this model, we don't separate it into anterior and posterior pituitary, so we just see a pituitary gland. Again, the pineal gland tends to sit behind the thalamus, and we see it better if we put the model back together and look at the back side of the brainstem in the just above the midbrain area. Remember, in the midbrain area you have the corpora quadrigemina, the four characteristic bumps, and right above that, split in half there, that is the pineal gland sitting just above the corpora quadrigemina. So those are our three endocrine structures that are located up in the brain. The rest of the organs, of course, are in the body cavity. And so for that, we need to take a look at a torso model. And I'm going to back out just a bit to begin with and bring this torso model forward. And the first thing you'll notice in this torso model is, of course, the thyroid gland. So just where you'd expect it to be, up in the neck region. As we said, just below the larynx on either side of the trachea, we see the thyroid gland right here. And of course, there would be another one on the other side as well. Fairly straightforward. Now remember, there's parathyroid glands embedded in the thyroid gland on the posterior side. Usually about 4 little nodules of parathyroid tissue, but we do not see those on any of our models. Another thing that we do not see on our models would be the thymus gland. And again, the thymus gland, if present, would be located essentially here between the lungs, above the heart, just on the inside of the sternum. But as I mentioned, that is not visible on the models that we have. The rest of the glands are down in the abdominal cavity. So if we can take off some of these overlying organs to expose what's in the abdominal cavity, take out the liver and take out the stomach. And what you'll see, of course, underneath the stomach, as you know from our study of the digestive system, is the pancreas. And so we know there's the pancreas right there. All right, sitting just a horizontal organ just underneath the stomach. We can also see the 2 adrenal glands at this point, though we can't really see the kidneys very well that they sit on top of, but Here's the right adrenal gland right there, and the left adrenal gland. This becomes more obvious if we essentially remove all of the intestines and the pancreas that overlies them, and get a similar view to what we had when we looked at abdominal circulation. Now, of course, you can see the kidneys very nicely sitting in their retroperitoneal position. Remember, the kidneys are behind the peritoneum, so pretty far back in the abdominal cavity, and the two adrenal glands sitting right on top there. All right, and then of course the only glands left are the gonads, but we will take, as I said, a look at the gonads a little bit later in the next 2 weeks when we do the reproductive system. The last thing I want to point out finally is that, remember, we do have a close-up model of the pancreas. Come down to refresh your memory on this model. Right, so again, we saw this model when we did abdominal circulation, but of course this is all the pancreas, obviously with the duct leading to the duodenum. And I just point this one out because, again, what we also see on this model are the two adrenal glands sitting on top of the kidneys. And really that's it for the endocrine system. As I said, a very simple system in terms of gross anatomy, but certainly complicated in terms of function. Next week we will do the reproductive systems, and we begin with the I believe male reproductive system next time. Actually, I'm not sure. Whatever it says in the syllabus, that's the one we will do next time. Until then, take care.